Hi, my name's Tim, and this is Peso, and we have been talking about a lot of ways to overcome fear, or at least hesitation when you approach your horse. And this is mostly for folks that I'm finding out in the big, beautiful world when I'm mostly a trail rider, horse camping kind of guy, and I'll come out there and there'll be a lot of people who have beautiful rigs, and they have beautiful horses, and either they or their horse, usually them, are not in very good shape. And then all of a sudden I realize that there's a lot of reasons for everything happening bad, which is a lot of fear and not being able to really control the horse and not being able to really have a relationship with the horse. But where do we start? We usually start with not only feeling for any kind of problem when we groom a horse, but establishing a grooming routine with your horse, and especially if you can bring them out from their stall so they're in your environment. Now, Peso is ground tied, so he does stand around. I've trained him to be lazy like he usually is. This is what horses do most of the time in their life, and so this is what he does. But when I keep him nice and I'm not an over groomer. I'm doing it to check for bugs. You can't believe the things I found. I found a pellet in him one time, embedded in there. Somebody shot him or something. I don't know what happens. But the first thing I like to do is basically, after I check for any kind of little bugs or bumps or anything like that, rub my hands over the whole thing. I just want to do a little thing like, you remember, they're kindergartners, and so what do you do with a kindergartner? You know, you bond with your kindergartner, combing their hair, you know, and doing things. I'm not a horse mane braider or whatever, but I just want to keep him, you know, in good shape. I don't overly do it, but basically it's all safety and health. But what this does is establish this bond, a routine that we've been doing for years with every horse I've ever had. You can do it with any kind of horse, and this is good. Now, what happens is we go to, if you need some kind of help and things with your horses, and we don't have always money for trainers, we don't have access to trainers, we don't want a trainer, we think we can do it ourselves, and I'm talking mostly to adults. Kids, there's a lot of programs, and the other thing is kids are small, and so, you know, adults are small too, but at least we have a little bit. You should be able to get a little higher up in here. And so adults tend to not want to have to go through the whole process because they might see it as a kind of a kid thing, or maybe so kind of a, I don't know, maybe more of a frightful thing because they don't know if the horse is going to jump out of his skin or something. None of these things are going to happen. Usually, as a general rule, we always stay at the horse's shoulder here, and so I'm always making sure that he's in a good position. And then we also have a nice way to brush their hair and their tail, and then also that establishes me kind of a front to back knowledge of what's happening here, if there's any kind of cuts. A lot of horse problems are because the horse is uncomfortable when you get a saddle on him. Imagine if they put a backpack on you and strapped in about 3 different places and it was too tight and you're trying to get rid of it and they're yelling at you because you don't want to carry that backpack anymore and you're kicking them and whatever's going on. It's always a kindergartner. And unless you're don't like kindergartners or something, you know, if you fight with them, you're never going to get that jacket on them. And if you do things that are too slow and you let them, you know, complain, you're never going to get anything done. So you have to have a kind of routine, things that you can do with every horse more or less. Every horse wants to have this area right here and this area right here. If you just run your fingers through there, you're doing the same thing their mom did, and they miss their moms. So you're doing this little tiny thing, just grooming their hair, because you know what, other horses can't really do this. They can't get their fingers in here. They can groom a little bit, but they can't really get in there. This is also a zone where animals like to communicate their little playfulness, little bites and little things like that. If they have fence issues or even little love bites and things. So we have to remember that horses are tough. They're very sensitive. They can feel a tiny little fly down here, but they're also really strong. So he's not desensitized. He just knows that there's nothing to be afraid of. He knows that I take care of him. I know even any horse that even I just walked up to, that I'm not a predator. I don't smell too much like a hamburger, and I also am not approaching him like I'm going to be targeting him or something like that. I'm grooming him, and so this is a big difference. There's not that many animals you can really do this, large animals you can do this kind of loving on, so to speak. I also, when I brush, I don't spend too much time. It depends what I'm doing. I do keep up with it pretty much most of the week, and so when I brush, I basically brush, and you can see a trillion different versions, but I'm not really brushing, to tell you the truth. In fact, You know, the greatest horse book ever written was by Xenophon 2,000-something years ago, and over grooming horses. And like, you need that sweat, and you need that hair to grow. He's got this nice roan coat. He's a red roan, by the way. I'll just haven't really introduced Peso as much. His real name is Stash That Cash. He's the grandson of Dash for Cash. His sire is Missin' Cash. He's got Doc Bar on both sides way back. That's why it's kind of, you know, and he has Rocket Wrangler, Miss Six Tari Rio. So this guy's loaded, but he's a gelding. He's never really done anything but be a trail horse and a good training horse. He's been my gym. He took me from spine issues to where I couldn't walk up a step, I couldn't sit in a chair, I couldn't do really anything, to the point where I'm able to rearrange all the parts of me. And this is something I think anybody can do. I'm just turned 60, so just opened up a new market for that right there. And I don't really want to be on AARP magazine right now, but I am in better shape than I was in my 40s when I had spine surgery. I'm able to move around, and it's all about the pelvis. So I talk about grooming, but I'm not talking about grooming. I'm talking about you having a relationship with this horse that you now are in charge of, and not being afraid. And the way that we do that is do this kind of grooming. Same as you give, you know, when my kids were little, I used to love to give them baths, you know. It's just a bonding thing. You know they can get clean by themselves, just dunk them in there. But when I work with the horse, and I'm not overdoing it on the brushing right now, so don't judge me on that, but basically I'm just making sure that there's not a lot of little bots or little tiny things or cuts or something. When I put that saddle on them, in addition to all the other straps and everything else that's happening and crunching his spine, there also could be a cut or something, or some kind of little issue, or a sore muscle. These guys are pure action, you know, so they get sore a lot. So we always have to have that relationship right away. And it helps me not be afraid. I'm not afraid of anything when I'm next to this guy. I should be, but I'm not, because I'm not in the kicking zone, this whole area back here, and I'm right here, and I'm not giving him any reason to be mad at me. That's why, kind of in conclusion, when you get to the next ones, is that grooming always happens. Walking around and making sure that I'm leading him and not being led always happens. Him and respecting my space and not having his head smack into me or moving over and pinning me somewhere, those always happen. Standing around ground tied so that he is able to be comfortable and eat down there. This is a treat down here, this little nubs of grass. These happen a lot. All these things always happen, but the riding and the getting to the next level is where people need to get, and you have to have that respect for that horse. If you take your kindergartner from the playground and send him right to church, you know, you're going to get a squirmy kid. So you have to have this establishment of work, and that really comes with time and space. So the first thing we've been talking about is time, the time it takes to have a slow, calm place. Your horse always wants to be at a calm place. And then now we're going to work with space when we start to move him. Right now I have this space and I've told him what to do with it, but next time I want to be able to move him around and control both time and space. So thanks for watching this short one, and again, my name is Tim, and this is Peso, and we'll see you next time.